February 28, 1960. Preface to the first edition. The misadventure of the Donner Party constitutes one of the most amazing stories of that land of amazing stories, the American West. It is worthy of record as a historical document upon what human beings may achieve, endure, and perpetrate in the final press of circumstance. This account is intended for a full and critical history of that ill-fated band of pioneers, and has been made possible by the remarkable preservation of detailed records. It is strictly factual, based upon the evidence of the sources and upon reasonable deduction from that evidence. It is not fiction. More than 100 characters are involved. I have given most of these some kind of introduction at the time of their appearance, but I found this impossible with the children, and have accordingly appended for reference a roster of the Donner Party. If in the story I have told much which is unpleasant, and much which the actors themselves would have been glad to let be forgotten, I may at least plead that I have told all in charity. I blame none of the emigrants for their acts during that winter, any more than I should blame a man for his acts during a delirium. Upon controversial points I have honestly considered both sides, and have given each a chance to speak, in the notes, if not always in the text. The Bancroft Library of the University of California has made available from its excellent collections the greater part of the materials, both printed and manuscript, upon which this study is based. For the unfailing courtesy and the ready cooperation there afforded me, I wish to thank Professor Herbert I. Priestley, Miss Edna Martin, and Mrs. Eleanor Ashby Bancroft. I have also used material from the collections of the University of California Library, California State Library, Huntington Library and Art Museum, and Illinois Historical Society. Mrs. Estelle Doheny permitted me to use from her private collection the important Jefferson map. The volume of Virginia Reed's letters was made available through the courtesy of Mrs. W. W. Gilmore and Dr. George Henry Hinkle. To these individuals, and to the officers of the various libraries and societies, I offer my sincere thanks. Mrs. Theodosia Burton Stewart has, as always, been a helpful advisor. Mr. Harvey Ferguson has been generous of his time and has given much valuable criticism. Professor George R. Potter has helped me to explore the mountains upon several expeditions during which our sufferings were, I have sometimes thought, second only to those of the Donner Party. I wish also to acknowledge advice, information, and aid in the interpretation of data furnished in correspondence or conversation by the California Fish and Game Commission, the Reverend James Culleton, Professors Herbert E. Bolton, Frederick L. Paxson, Charles L. Camp, and Irwin G. Goody, Dr. Eric Ogden, Dr. C. W. Chapman, and Messrs. Charles Kelly, P. M. Waddell, and Grant Smith. For the illustrations, I am under obligation first of all to Professor Ray Boynton for his generously rendered services. For the right to reproduce the painting by A. P. Hill, I am indebted to the Extension Division of the University of California and to Professor Owen C. Coy. The picture of Sutter's Fort was kindly furnished by Professor Irwin G. Goody from his extensive collection. For permission to reproduce the Breen Diary and the print of Yerba Buena, I am still further indebted to the Bancroft Library. GRS, Berkeley, California, December 9th, 1935. Part 1. The March. Bear thee grimly, demigod. Moby Dick. Forward. To observe the scene of this story, the reader must for a moment imagine himself taken backward many years in time, and raised in space some hundreds of miles above a spot near the center of the state of Nevada. Poised there at an airy point of vantage, facing toward the north and blessed with more than human eyesight, he sees laid out beneath him the far west of the United States of America, only it is not yet part of the United States. Over it, Mexico still claims a nominal sovereignty, soon to be ended by process of the war already begun. Actually, it is the land of Indian tribes and the haunt of a few white trappers. The year is 1846, the month July. Far to his left, westward, the onlooker from the sky just catches the glint of the Pacific Ocean. Far to his right, on the eastern horizon, high peaks of the Rockies forming the Continental Divide cut off his view. Between horizons lie 13 degrees of longitude, 1,000 miles from east to west. A sweeping glance reveals a region of high plateau, mountain, and desert, brilliantly alight with a seldom clouded sun. The far-reaching scene is somewhat lacking in the brighter colors, and in general, dull green, drab, and gray possess the land. But here and there, spots of bright blue reveal lakes, and a shining dazzle of white shows the location of alkali plains. Little snow appears in the scene, but it is, we remember, midsummer. The land knows snow in its season. Having satisfied his curiosity with an impressionistic glance, the observer must now view the country more systematically from east to west, along a line following roughly the center of the landscape. From the peaks of the Continental Divide upon the eastern horizon, high plateau country scattered with mountains extends westward 100 miles to the few log huts which form the trading post of Fort Bridger. In the next 100 miles, west of the fort in the present state of Utah, lie the Wasatch Mountains, lofty, rugged, and forbidding. They are, in most places, bare of trees except along streams, for they are mountains which face a desert. Just westward of their base lies the Great Salt Lake itself, a sizable and very brilliant spot of blue with a wide alkali desert running off from it southwestward in a white shimmer. For 500 miles westward from that salt inland sea stretches, dun and heat-stricken under the summer sun, the arid country of the Great Basin, which forms now the state of Nevada. A monotonous succession of mountain ranges is this land's most noticeable feature. Treeless, of dark volcanic rock, sometimes sinister in reds or tawny yellows, as yet nameless, these ranges run north and south at almost regular intervals. As the sun moves, their shadows swing from west to east across the great empty sagebrush valleys between them. Afternoon looks only morning reversed. It is a thirsting land. Small meadows with springs fringe the bases of the mountains, but dust storms blow over the plains, and rivers are few. The Humboldt, dreariest of streams, threads from east to west between the desert ranges, stretching out toward the Truckee, descending from the Sierra Nevada. But Humboldt and Truckee alike disappear in sinks and salt lakes, and 40 miles of desert lie between them. At the western edge of this arid country rises suddenly the sheer wall of the Sierra Nevada. At its foot, the drab color ends, and the mountains stand forth notable by the rich green of forests, the blue of lakes, the white of snow, and the clear shimmer of high wind-swept granite. The Sierra and its foothills form a belt 100 miles wide, and westward of them is the Sacramento Valley of California, now in midsummer, stretching away mellow and golden with its ripe grasses. And in the valley, the watcher from the sky may see also the adobe walls of Sutter's Fort. Between Bridgers and Sutters, the only mark of civilization is a tenuous trace winding from east to west, and for a portion of the way swinging off to the north into another region. It is a faint pair of parallel lines, the track of wagon wheels on the California Trail. Even now, far upon his right, the watcher may mark the emigrant trains. Most of them have just come into view, their white wagon tops agleam as they debouche from South Pass at the Continental Divide. Some are for Oregon, some for California, and even all bound for one destination will not follow exactly the same route. But all who are for California must at last descend the winding way to where the Humboldt dies in the sand. Then they must reach the Truckee, go up it, past the blue glitter of Truckee Lake, and finally